Hello, you guys. I'm Carlos,
I'm Levi.
and we are again your friendly neighborhood
Holy Chatters.
Holy Chatters. And welcome back to Holy Chat, another good episode. And please subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube and on Spotify. Also, subscribe, like us, and share it with your friends, whoever you think that. Again, these podcasts will be important for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Invite your friends to listen because as we get new content out every week, kind of build on this idea of those of you who maybe think you're spiritual but not super religious. Maybe you don't go to church or synagogue or mosque or anything like that, but you believe there's something bigger out there and you just want to live a fuller life. That's the kind of stuff we like to talk about.
Yeah.
We're in January and we're talking about renewal.
Yes.
Renewal.
Can you
And
remind the good
yeah,
people what we talked about last week, please?
renewal. So, being January, New Year's resolutions, we thought we'd talk about the deeper thing of renewal.
Deeper.
Renewal being like improving your life, starting over, letting go of things that are less healthy and taking
Yes.
on things that are more positive and hopeful
Yes.
in your life. And so last week we talked about rest
Yes.
as an essential part of renewal,
Mhm.
that it's important to rest, but rest isn't passive, it's active
Right,
rest,
right.
like silent stillness or solitude for some, or working with your hands for others, or gaming for still others, but taking some time to be still and present in a place
Yes.
that's not work
Right.
and that's not problem inducing or stress inducing.
Yeah.
And the analogy we used was the trees in winter that are dormant, but still at work under the ground,
Yeah.
even as the tops look like they're doing
Correct.
nothing at all.
Yeah. They're all there.
That's right. So this week we take a next step in the process for renewal. What does that look like?
So for us, it is that. So it is the time right now. I mean, probably not technically, but close to it. And I know this from my wife that she's a gardener, that she's preparing. She already told me what plants need to be ripped off, which plants need to be some trimming, some pruning, some which plants need to just basically go away, and what are the new things, the new plants that she's thinking to do in her garden and in her, design for the house. So anyway, I think that also applies for our lives, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
yeah. I mean, I can tell a lot about a person by how they prune their plants. Let me just tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember I was serving at one church one time, and they had these beautiful crepe myrtles in the front, And I came to church one morning, and they were just like slashed to the ground, like they had hacked them all down to the nubs. And I remember John 15 in the Bible. For those of you that don't read the Bible, that's okay. But Jesus tells a story of a pruner who's pruning, and it's the analogy of helping people to grow, right? And I thought, would you want God to prune you that way, like to just cut you down in the nubs? So I don't know if Wendy's that way.
No,
But,
no, no, no.
but I think when we think about pruning it for growth,
Yeah.
be gentle with yourselves.
Right. No, she's
Don't just go hacking away.
very accurate in her cutting.
Yeah.
I have been chewed out because you cut too much or too little or whatever. So, no,
Well, you've got a lot to learn.
I do.
Pruning,
I'm not a gardener. I don't. I'm a lover of the big indoors. So
the big indoors.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love the indoors.
I had a friend once who said he was an avid indoorsman.
Yeah,
that's
me.
that's you.
That's me. Yes.
So yeah, when you talk about pruning, for me in the Christian faith tradition, we use these words like sin and repentance,
Yes.
and they're big religious-y words, but basically it's the stuff that's not good for us
Right.
that we need to let go.
Yeah.
And so I think about the trees giving up their leaves in the fall, or someone pruning, and even though it might be painful for a moment to prune, to cut off branches and cut off leaves, it's actually helping that plant to grow more and grow more efficiently and better in the springtime. And so a big part of renewal is this idea of repentance, or this idea of sloughing off the bad stuff, sloughing off the unhealthy stuff,
Yeah.
letting go of that and turning in a new direction to do something new. So,
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
one of the. So I was raised. I'm not gonna go the whole thing, but I was raised on
you're
the.
not going to tell us your whole
No,
childhood
the
story?
whole thing. Well, back in the day, no. I was raised in the Roman Catholic tradition, and there they have a tradition or a practice and it is even it's a practice and it is a sacrament for them, which is a holy practice that they use,
Ritual type.
their ritual. Yeah. But anyway, what I like particularly, and it is confession. In confession, it is not the necessarily for me the act of you going to the priest and tell, Father, forgive me for my sins, for how I've sinned, and then you tell your dirty laundry, if you will. But there is a powerful, powerful soul cleansing and just spiritual cleansing and emotionally cleansing when you can say the words that are affecting you. It could be the trauma that you have experienced, and if you can say those words, um, you actually say them. I cannot tell you how liberating that is. Or confessing as out loud, you forgive somebody that has wronged you, or that maybe that you have something unresolved with somebody, or something that it is holding you back. As I said, I cannot stress how big it is to confess it. And now you don't have to say it to anybody, really. There's many ways that you can do that, and I have uh, invited many people to do that. Again, with pastors, and we do this, but many times I have said that, can you write it down on a stone, or maybe it could be a word, or you can say that to the. I've said it. You can just say it to the stone, say it out loud. You can be out in the lake by yourself. Nobody has to listen. In between you and the divine, however the divine you understand, you say it and throw it, cast it, so that it is out of you. Or another way is that you can write it down and you burn it, so it is no trace. So there is nothing that that you can feel embarrassed about it or anything. It's just confession is so important to me, and that you
Yeah.
can say those words
Yeah.
out loud. It is so crucial, because it is truly a healing time, because it is, you don't hold it anymore within you. It is out, and it is away from you.
Yeah, that's a lost art, I think, in the 21st century because, I mean, how many of us pay for therapy now, right? And we go to therapy, and a lot of times we go in and we talk about what other people have done. My mother said this, and my dad did that, and my childhood was like this. And it's kind of, it can get a little blamey, like everyone else is the problem.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about confession is you're acknowledging your DNA in the problem. You're acknowledging where you've fallen short, or you've made mistakes, or you've hurt people, or hurt yourself. And just that verbal acknowledgement has some kind of power to it.
Yes.
One of the reasons that I am spiritual is that I think I feel that power when I confess
Yes.
I screwed up out loud to a friend or to God. Like, something lifts off of me. There's a weight that comes off of me.
Yes.
Whereas when you hold it inside, you can feel it chew on you and eat at you.
Yes.
So for me, I think about, therapy is a great and wonderful thing. But in that, we want to continue to self-reflect and not always look at everyone else around us, but look into ourselves where we're falling short. And that's a big part of renewal, right? Because you can't ever get to the other side of the positive growth if you have all this dead stuff weighing you down, right?
Yep.
Like a tree that never lets its leaves off. What happens in the spring?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, another metaphor or analogy that I have heard is that I really like. It is when you cut yourself and you don't treat it correctly, and new skin grows, but if you push it and it hurts because it is infected, it is in there, it has not healed. It has maybe new skin, and you think, oh, it's just fine now. But if you touch it, it hurts because it's infected. It is something in there.
Yeah.
So what happens is that you have to go in there and cut it, which is confession in many ways. Is just you say that something is wrong, and you many times you have to squeeze all the stuff that it is in there, and in a physical wound, you have to squeeze it out, and that may be hurting, and it may be painful, but once you have done through all the process, and then you can put actually a patch that that from now on you will have the scar. I'm looking at a scar because I have a scar here. um, um, you will see it, you will remember it, but it will not hurt. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is to me confession in your heart and in your soul. That when you push that thing out, it's gonna hurt. It's not necessarily pleasant many times, but
Yeah.
it's gonna it's gonna heal you. And
Yeah.
again, the scar will be there. You will remember things, of course, but it's not gonna have any
Yeah.
effect or the effect that used to have in you.
Yeah, and it's important to have those people in your life that you can do that with.
Yeah.
Like you said, in the Catholic Church, it's pretty easy. There's a priest, you know who
Yeah.
to go to, you know who to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
In the Protestant Church, we don't have that,
No.
and so you kind of have to make up your own by
Sure.
having a friend, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we say accountability partner,
Mm-hmm.
but you have someone in your life. Or we're United Methodists, so we have a history in the
Mm-hmm.
Methodist Church of these accountability groups
Mm-hmm.
that would meet and confess,
Yes.
fallenness or brokenness or sin
Mm-hmm.
to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're outside of any of those systems, you want to think about who's my group, or
Mm-hmm.
who are my people,
Mm-hmm.
person or people that I can go to and say, well,
Yeah.
I screwed up today,
Mm-hmm.
or I screwed up this week. I feel really bad about this, and just get it out
Yeah.
to someone who's trustworthy and reliable and confidential sometimes
Yes.
with,
Confidential is
yeah,
important.
yeah, and for each other to have that
Yes.
understanding that
Yes.
neither of you are going to take that and go and share it out with all your
Right.
other friends or
Yes.
family.
Yeah.
That can be very damaging.
Well, yes, because then I'd pass up on the shame again and the guilt and all the
Mm-hmm.
things. So you want somebody who. That's the reason I'm saying that many times if you can find a way, a practice that where you can connect, as I said, God, Jesus, or the divine, however you understand it, or if you're in that process of understanding what that is, if you can have that moment, a ritual, a thing that you can do to get rid of it. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't have, if you don't think you have that person, and we'll talk about it about a relationship and everything.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, or if you don't think that you have that person, uh, by all means, do something that it is uh, meaningful to you, that you know that you can get rid of it. And of course, even in our tradition, in the United Methodist tradition, even if you just stop in a congregation in any given time, if you say, "Can I talk to the pastor?" In my experience, we will listen. We will listen,
We
and
will. We take vows to listen.
yes, and we will. There's no judgment, and we're not gonna tell you to come on Sunday mornings, necessarily. We will always invite you, to have that journey of faith. But the point is, just if you need somebody, we will listen. We will
Yeah,
listen.
yeah, absolutely. But I think it's also, important to have those people in your lives that you can
Yes,
trust.
I
I
agree.
remember, and this goes back to maybe why some of you listening don't go to church anymore if you used to, is some churches did a lot of harm with confession, where in some congregations you would have to confess to the whole church what
Yeah,
you did
yeah,
wrong.
that's a
I've known members of my own family
Mm.
that had to go up in front
Oh,
of a small congregation
oh
and
boy.
say, well, I did this thing,
Oh
and
no.
now everybody's looking at them differently, thinking
Yeah,
about them differently. The shame that you
yeah,
talk about is
yeah.
there. And that's not particularly helpful in your
No,
healing.
no.
Now, sometimes it is helpful years down the road to say, I went through this and
Yes.
came out on the other side of it.
Right.
But gosh, when you're in the middle of it,
Yeah.
it's really important to have, trusted confidential friends,
Yes.
or therapists or pastors or
Mm-hmm.
rabbis or whoever it might be, to sit down and really talk that through
Mm-hmm.
in a safe space,
Safe
right?
space. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
super important.
Yes. But bottom line is to recap and summarize. It is just use this time of renewal to prune ourselves, right? To what are the things that we need to shave away,
Mm-hmm,
right? And what are the things that we need to keep,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then how we'll prepare for the next season of our lives.
Yeah, and I think it's important to connect that to last week, where the rest
Mm-hmm.
and the repentance or the pruning or the confession, those go together. In That's just my opinion. I'm an older millennial, so these
Rubbing it.
young people these days, but my kids and people my kids' age, I feel like do struggle a little bit with self reflection about
Mm.
their own shortcomings.
Mm.
That's a
Yeah.
nice way to put it, isn't it? Maybe you think you're perfect. That's all I'm saying. And so the thing about the rest piece or the Sabbath piece is it's an invitation for you to self-reflect
Yeah.
on where you may have fallen short or where you may have hurt yourself or hurt other people.
Yeah.
And then that next logical step then is to tell someone about that, to go to a clergy person or a trusted friend or a therapist and say, I hurt this person's feelings. I broke this rule. I fell short at work, and get it out of your internal conversation and outside of yourself so that you can take that weight off yourself. So I hope people can start to see the flow of these things as we go into the next week where we start to talk about relationships. You got to have those first two in place, right? In order to get to the next one.
Again.
And so that's coming up, right?
So gamers, level 1, it is rest. Get some experience points. Level 2, it is confession and and repentance.
Yeah.
And you get more experience points, and then you go into the ultimate challenge now.
Relationships.
All right.
That was easy.
All right. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.